I don't know. Are we live? I don't know how this one works. I've never used this one before.
It should say up in the corner.
I think it says we're live.
Is it live?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
It goes live faster than the other programs.
It really does, yeah. Well, we are live with another episode of Movies with Mark. My name is Mark McPherson, movie critic for Moviespoon.com, TwinCitiesGeek.com, and MoviesWithMark.com.
I'm not a movie critic.
And she is not a movie critic. My wife here. She's more the artist. More the artist in the family.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
We'll go with that.
All right. Well, so today, got a few things to cover. We are going to cover the new horror film that everyone's talking about, A Quiet Place. We are going to be covering a little indie drama called Kings. And we are going to be discussing this month's, we're going to have a new thing. We're going to have a Movie of the Month giveaway, which every month we're going to give away a movie.
You're committing to every month doing that?
I am committing to every month to it.
Right.
And I want this to be like a real giveaway. It's not going to be like throwaway movies. Like all these are going to be movies that I would watch, that I adore. So it's not going to be a little like cheap. You know, I'm going to dig through the bargain bins at Big Lots or something and find like Z-grade movies. So
not like the last that first giveaway you did where it was just
oh, the flowers. Well, that was more like promotional material. It's like I wouldn't give away the film, but hey, if people like the whole I forget what it said, like vigilante as fuck, something like that.
Yeah.
There were stickers, there were like rub-on tattoos, really bizarre tattoos, especially if you've seen the film.
I think it's kind of weird to wear things with like, I know AF is an abbreviation, but if you know what it stands for, it's kind of weird to wear in public.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's odd to wear swear words, foul language in public.
Yeah, it can be pretty odd.
Not so classy.
not as classy, nah. But they, that's someone's deal, If you want some weird swag, like I've got other weird swag. If anyone wants, like I've still got that T-shirt from that Ashton Kutcher film, Spread, from back in the day.
Didn't you wear that a few times though?
I did wear it a few times, and I think I actually still have the theater-sized poster for that film too.
I want to say we were at a restaurant and someone asked you about your shirt.
Yeah.
Because they had a company named Spread or something, or they knew someone with
yeah,
because
the shirt just said Spread, and then on the back I think it said like it's a business spreading love or some dumb tagline like that from the film.
Yeah.
No one saw this movie.
Weird.
No one ever saw Spread. But they got promotional material, so if anyone wants that Ashton Kutcher shirt, I guess I could put it up if anyone wants it. It's kind of a neat shirt, just that it says Spread because of it's a pretty general phrase. It's not like wearing something that says like Backdraft or something like that. Alright, so we'll get right into talking about the film that everyone's going nuts about, A Quiet Place. This is a little horror film. It's co-written and directed and starring John Krasinski. Most people know John Krasinski from stuff like The Office, and he's been in a few little indie comedies over the years. But much like, kind of like with like Jordan Peele, this is kind of like his first big directorial effort and starring, directing and writing effort for a horror film. Mm-hmm. And it's a damn good horror film. It's just like, who knew? Who knew these guys that were done comedy for years were great doing horror? Now, it premiered at South by Southwest back in March, and everyone went nuts about this film. Like, everyone's been saying, like, oh, it's the scariest film I've seen in years. But again, you kind of take that with a grain of salt, because, anytime they see a scary horror film, they're just like, oh, it's the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I've heard people say that about It. And...
Our kid was talking to me about It today. I don't know how she knew about It.
It's iconic.
She's talking about clowns. I'm like, hey, you're a little young to watch that movie.
it's was it like playground talk? They say a lot like, oh, I heard about this clown called Pennywise, something like that.
I'm sure one of their parents took them to that movie.
Probably, or they snuck a peek at the miniseries. Who knows?
I don't know.
That Pennywise, man, he gets around.
I guess.
But yeah, some people are scared of It, but I honestly viewed It more kind of as a, you know, the roller coaster type of horror film. You know, you go out there and you're not so much scared, but you know, it's like going to a haunted house. You appreciate the ride. A Quiet Place is actually kind of interesting because what I was hoping for was that it was going to be kind of like the slow build horror film, stuff like The Witch and It Comes at Night, where it's very, very slow, very, very minimalistic, and very creepy and creeps you out and is dark as hell. And this is kind of in that vein, although I think it's a little bit easier to recommend to some more general audiences because It Comes at Night, you'll leave the theater with that just feeling like haunted and just, you know, like you don't want to talk to anyone. You just got like a nasty feeling in your stomach. It's like, because it's a good horror film, but man, it puts that odd feeling in you. A Quiet Place is, it's a little bit easier to recommend, mostly because it has an interesting premise to go with. So the premise is it takes place in this kind of future where I'm not sure if it'd be like aliens or a science experiment, but there are monsters roaming about that they can't see. They can only hear, so they have expert hearing, and they can pick up on any little thing. So naturally, to survive in this environment, you have to be quiet, like very quiet. Like you cannot wear shoes, you cannot talk to people, you cannot make the slightest... You got to be very careful with every little move you make, because the slightest bit of noise and these monsters will just come right out of the woodwork, just zipping by like cars and just pick you off like right away. So we follow the Abbott family, and they've grown accustomed to this. Like the film begins immediately on day 89 of, you know, since the monsters started attacking, and you know, they've gotten used to it by now. You know, they know to do sign language. It's easier for them to do sign language because their daughter is deaf. So it makes it a little tough. You know, you have a deaf daughter in this world where you have to be quiet. And so they end up just talking to each other through sign language through most of the film. In fact, there's even...
Good thing they know sign language.
Yeah, that's probably the most useful thing you could have in this situation.
Good skill to have.
It's a very good skill. Well, especially because there's no audible dialogue for maybe about the first 20 or 30 minutes of this film. Because they got to establish, you know, you have to be quiet. So the sound, there's a lot of dropping of sound all over the place. Like the film doesn't directly tell you about the monsters or anything. You just kind of follow the Abbott family and you watch them quietly as they develop through here. So you kind of get the idea.
How would you not make any sound though? Because like the floors creak and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. That's again, you know, why you gotta, you know, you can't have shoes. And they walk along, they make sure they carry like, you know, sand at all times so that they can walk on sand as opposed to any, you know, surface that might be creaky or something like that.
The floor would still creak though. It has to do with weight applied to it, not where
it probably would.
Or anything.
So that's why they got to be careful about where they go too. Because like one of the first things they do is they stop at a store. So they got to be careful, you know, when they go around the shelves or, you know, how they walk along the vinyl. You know, they got to be very, very careful about this stuff because as they establish early on, you know, you could get picked off easily, and kids are not off the menu.
But even like your bare feet on the floor, they make a noise.
Yeah.
Your breathing makes a noise.
Well,
what if you got something caught in your throat?
Oh yeah. Well, you gotta. Well, the thing is, you gotta be like minimally quiet. It's like you can't be like completely inaudible. I mean, because, you know, they still got to hear. They'll still pick up other sounds. So naturally, yeah, you can distract the monsters. So, you know, if there's like a waterfall going by or there are like fireworks in the distance, you know, you can draw them away. But if it's completely silent, like out in the woods and like, because, you know, they've picked off most of the wildlife, so there's nothing out there, then they can hear you easily. You know, you hear twigs snap and stuff like that. So it gets a little bit harder for the Abbott family because they skip ahead about 400 days later, and the mom here, played by Emily Blunt, is pregnant. And
well, imagine going through labor while being silent.
And that is the trick here.
How?
Because you see that and you're like, how the hell is this going to work?
I mean, you remember me in labor, right?
Yes, because here's the thing. This film, much like kind of like The Babadook, if you're a parent, this is really going to be intense for you. Like, it's
like, man, I had a short labor too, and
yeah. And there is without giving too much away, when it's time for the baby to come, it comes at probably the worst time, and with probably one of the most like nail biting moments. Like, I've been like, I love horror films, so I watch tons of them, and I've become, kind of used to certain horror tropes and all that, and the scares. This one really got me. Like, I always kind of like look back at the audience to have, if the horror film's bad, to have more fun watching their reactions. Mm-hmm. I was kind of like more like one of those people. Like, I was kind of biting my finger at some point. It's like, oh God, I remember this situation. It's not gonna go good.
Yeah, have a sweet your coffee and fading fast.
Oh, of course you can. There you go. You got some coffee there. So I mean, Emily Blunt, she's kind of more the star here, like, because John Krasinski, he's kind of the leader of the family. He's set them up at this farm. He's got cameras everywhere. He takes every precaution. He's studied up on these creatures. He's even gone to extra lengths to sort of craft a hearing aid for his daughter. Oh. Because he's really trying to keep this family together in this situation where, it seems really, really grim.
How do you craft your own hearing aid?
He finds a whole bunch of books and electronics materials, so studies up on it.
And he manages to craft it without making any noise?
They do all that kind of work in a basement that they cover up and that they soundproof. So interesting.
How do these monsters operate that they can hear things so well, and where did they come from? Or is that revealing too much?
Well, here's the thing. They don't specifically tell where they're from, because this film is virtually, like, if you hate exposition, this is a great film for you, because it spells out nothing for you immediately. It doesn't say, like, oh, the attack happened so fast, the creatures came from another world. It's like, no. We don't need to see that, because we've seen that film where it's like, oh, day one, the monsters came, and, like, crowds are running from that. No, we've seen that film. I'm more interested in, like, what happens after. Mm-hmm. On, like, like day 89 or day 400, and, for the people who are living in the situation. Because by now, like, if you've watched any, like, post-apocalyptic film where aliens or monsters take over the world, you kind of know the drill. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's the cool thing. This film is intelligent enough to trust you that you've seen that film, and that you're going to want to read the cinematography more to tell the story, rather than have everyone tell you, because, there's no words. Mm-hmm. I mean, they do sign language, but they got to make it very limited too. So they got to make great use of it.
Do they subtitle the sign language, or do you just got to figure it out?
Okay. They do subtitle the sign language, just in case you're worried.
Well, hey, you can learn sign language by watching this movie if you pay really close attention. Maybe.
Yep.
Maybe.
Only a few films in this era have sign language, and that's the Planet of the Apes movies and this.
I know. What about Rampage? That looks like it's going to have a little bit of sign language in it.
Yeah, but not reliant on it. Like, they're going to, like, say what they're saying through sign language too. They'll be like, "Hey George, what are you doing?" It's like, "Oh," it's like, "What do you say?" "He said this and this." They're going to do it like that.
Okay.
I guarantee you it's not going to be that highbrow enough like Planet of the Apes was.
What about The Shape of Water? That lady used sign language.
Oh, you're right. You're right. That was translated, yeah.
Hey, two people in viewing. What movies are there with sign language? Are those it?
Sure, there are plenty. Well, there's the other one where someone say, like, oh, this is kind of a silent film too.
Yeah.
Because they were thinking, like, oh, it's the last silent film. It was the artist.
Like the guy with the ghost dude.
Which one?
The one where the guy is just wearing a sheet.
Oh,
watching the lady eat cake.
Oh, A Ghost Story.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that.
I didn't get to see that one yet, but I hear there's limited to no dialogue in that one as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting thing about this too, is that I kind of, it depends on how you want to experience the film, but I would almost recommend that you have to see this in the theater to get the full experience, because with the lack of sound, you can hear everything. Now, at first, it's kind of a bother because everyone's was kind of like still filtering into the theater, so you hear like popcorn bags rustling and all that. But after they get settled in, no one was talking, and you can hear like a pin drop in that theater because everyone is on the edge of their seat trying to see how they're going to like survive the next day when these monsters are just easily picking off these people. So it's
Wow.
so it's amazing to hear that, especially when we shift to the deaf girl, the soundtrack drops out completely. Like there's no background noise or anything. So it's just like completely drops out, and then you can hear everyone's kind of like gasping, because there's one moment where we hear her perspective. All the sound drops out, and one of the monsters is behind her, and you hear like the kind of like the gasping and the cringing from everyone in the audience. And it's kind of like, because like halfway through I was kind of wondering, like maybe should I look at the audience or not? No, I can hear the audience because the audio just keeps dropping out of this. So it's really fun on that level. I will say this without spoiling too much of the film. If you're worried that it's going to be like The Witch or It Comes at Night, where it's going to leave you feeling very, depressed by the end, it's not quite like an upbeat ending, but it's a satisfying ending. I will say that, especially if you like Emily Blunt. Like, I mean, Krasinski is kind of the leader, but Blunt mostly kind of dominates the film, especially with what she goes through with labor when she has to defend the farm.
Wow.
It's intense. There is a lot of moments where I was like kind of gritting my teeth going, oh God. There are even scenes where it sets up something terrible that's going to happen. Like something loose in the floor, or like a nail that's quite ajar, and you kind of know what's going to happen, but you're still not prepared for when it happens, because you're kind of like, okay, I see what's going to happen here, and then once they get to, you're like, oh, that's worse than I thought it was going to be. So it plays on your anticipation, but it doesn't assault you either. It makes the characters are very human. There's this guilt complex around everyone, where they felt like, if I'd done just a little bit more, or if I hadn't done this, maybe this person would be alive, or could I have done this differently, or should I have told my family member this thing. And there's all these swirling emotions going around, which really kind of enforces this kind of parental theme throughout it. That that's the thing, like it's gonna scare parents the most, and and it's hard to recommend that.
I'm not gonna watch this movie.
Well, obviously you're not gonna watch, because you really don't like scary movies, especially if they play on parental fears.
Well, so here's the other thing, though. I've watched like half of the movies that are behind you.
Oh, the horror movies there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going with clever concepts.
And I liked 4 of them. Well, it's not that I disliked Sinister, but it did scare me and gave me lots of really bad nightmares.
Yeah, it scared you, yeah.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I told the screenwriter that, and he apologized, and I said, no, that's what it was supposed to do. It's fine.
It's like, your movie scared me. Well, I'm sorry, but that was supposed to do.
No, all he said was, I'm sorry, and I said, well, don't be. That's what it was supposed to do.
It's what it's supposed to do,
Don't feel bad.
No, don't feel bad that your movie
Don't feel bad
scary.
that you were effective. You should feel bad if you write a horror movie that doesn't scare people.
Exactly, you gotta put it out there. The other thing too I wanted to mention is that you have a problem with kind of like jump scares.
Yeah, I don't like jump scares.
Now here's the thing, like there are kind of jump scares here, but the thing is, like, usually with jump scares they set up the anticipation of it. They'll have like a character will like get really close to like a window or something, and then the sound will drop out, and so they kind of like set up like, okay, here comes the jump scare. Let's set the countdown to when it's going to happen. This film is kind of different, because since there's a lack of sound throughout, you don't have a clue when that jump scare is going to come. And when it does come, it feels warranted. So it's not like, a setup to it.
Do they not have that music that makes you jump just because of they do that tone thing?
No.
To make you jump?
No, I mean, and that's the thing. There's very little use of music here. Like when they do have music, it's very kind of like somber, kind of like frontier style violins to kind of enhance the depression of it. And there's a little bit of some intense music here and there, with a little bit more of the violins, but it's mostly kind of silent throughout. Say for like, there's a few minutes of dialogue when they, they're by a waterfall and they realize they can talk, or when they whisper, when they realize, they're in a soundproof room. But other than that, it's they choose their words wisely and choose their actions wisely. So That's the nature of the game, you know. You gotta live in the new world, you know. So needless to say, I loved the crap out of this film. I think, you know, again, it's early in the year, but it's probably gonna be one of my favorite horror movies of the year.
Okay.
Because I think what I love most is that it kind of swirls together like the two elements I like about horror, which is, you know, that kind of dread that it puts in you with like a really dark story, and also kind of like that satisfying audience reaction that you kind of want. So usually with horror films I get one or the other. You know, I get really down, dark, depressing, you know, feel bad about yourself horror, and then roller coaster, oh, spooky, everyone's freaking out in the theater and throwing their popcorn type horror. And this one is almost kind of like a decent mix between the two. So I really dug it. Needless to say, this is definitely one that you're probably gonna have to see in the theater. It's along lines of Annihilation. If you have not seen Annihilation or A Quiet Place in the theater, you need to, because you are gonna kick yourself on home video when you see it and you're like, why didn't I see this sooner? I guarantee there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna see Annihilation. They're gonna be like, what the hell was I doing?
Although I've heard some criticisms about Annihilation, particularly what's her nuts' acting.
Yeah, Natalie Portman. I think she's fine in it.
I think there were some issues with setup, but they might have been being making a bigger deal about it in order to make the joke of their review.
Yeah, it depends what you're looking for with her, but considering what I've seen her in like the past, it's quite an improvement. She's not like a stellar actor. I don't think she's as accomplished as some of the better actresses out there. Yeah. But I think with the premise that she's working with here, especially for the theme that they were going in Annihilation, I think she works well with it.
I thought she was decent as a child actress in like Leon the Killer and stuff. So I mean, as far as child actresses go, she was decent.
Yeah, for Luc Besson action film, she was pretty good.
Say what you will about Star Wars, but consider what she had to work with there, and the fact that she was wearing heavy makeup for a good chunk of that series. So
no one was saving it. Samuel Jackson couldn't save that.
That wasn't about acting. That was more about writing.
Yeah, well, directing too.
That too.
A good director could get the right emotion out of a character and not just let him linger there dead. So.
Yeah. But I think people underestimate how much directing comes into acting too.
Yeah.
You need to be able to communicate what you want from your actors.
And that's
what emotion they're supposed to be going for.
And that's why it's kind of cool to see when actors start doing direction here, because they have enough experience in front of the camera to know what will work on screen here.
Yeah.
Which is why I think Krasinski works really well here with his actors that barely have to say a word or barely have to do anything that heavily action oriented to make the script work, to make the direction work here. Like the child actors here, they're you know, the Abbott family, they have 2 kids and they're pretty good. Like, you know, the daughter is kind of like fed up, she has no hope, and the son is just kind of like terrified of the fact that he might have to go out and hunt and protect the family. And they have like legitimate emotions and concerns here, as opposed to just being, you know, little brats that kind of, you know, force the plot to go forward.
I think that's the kind of world where the little brats all died off.
Yeah,
because
pretty much.
Little brats, they're not the kind of kids that'll survive. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
You don't survive by complaining, you know?
No room for noises here.
We've been reading, we just started reading Little House in the Big Woods. And I try to emphasize certain points to my kid. It's like, you see how the only food they had was what they hunted and grew? You know? There's no room to be picky when you don't hardly have anything. So,
yeah.
There's no room for complaining when you speak and you're gonna die. So.
Yeah. So you gotta be smart.
In the realm of that movie that.
Well, that's the cool thing about A Quiet Place, is because it's like it takes place 400 days after. The characters are smart.
Yeah.
At least.
Well, you'd have to be smart to survive in that kind of.
Yeah.
Thing.
Well, especially like because there's a point where the kids go missing, and Krasinski's first reaction is like, look, you know, they've lived long enough, they know what to do, I'm pretty sure they're still alive and I can go out and find them.
But with the lady who has the baby, babies make a lot of noise.
Yep, and
they ain't gonna know when they come out not to.
Yeah, and they have a solution for that, which I'm not gonna reveal though. It's a clever reveal.
Because you know, there's that you know, that sort of moral question or something where it's like, oh, you're in a village and the I don't know what it is, bad people or whatever are coming to are trying to find you, you're hiding, your baby starts crying. Do you cover its mouth and smother it? Which, you know, I don't think that would necessarily kill it, but
it's a gamble.
But or do you let them find you with the crying baby?
Yeah.
Something like that, and both die.
Yeah. That's the thing, they've been around long enough to actually think about that question and have an answer that's not one of the two.
All right.
So
right on.
Well, that's the other cool thing is that they have a lot of setup here where they kind of like set up how, you know, how things will happen. Like they reveal little bits and pieces about what they're going to do when the baby gets there. And the other cool thing too is that we also learn stuff that the characters don't know until later. Like there is a weakness to these monsters. And we figure it out fairly early, but the characters don't know it yet either. So not only are we kind of like trying to figure out what they're doing, but they're trying to figure out, you know, the weaknesses of the monster. So there's this kind of back and forth between seeing how things play out and seeing if, you know, the characters can figure out what we know too. So and they eventually do, because again, you know, they've been around long enough. They're intelligent. So yeah, it's a competent horror film throughout, and like I said, I don't want to reveal the ending, but you're gonna leave it feeling pretty good. Pretty good if you really dig horror films.
Okay.
So, yeah. So for Quiet Place, 4.5 out of 5 stars. All right.
Stars.
There's whatever you want. It's a good movie. Go see it. Whatever rating you want to put on it. It's the best horror film I've seen so far this year. So.
All right then.
Go out and see it. Then we got a smaller film here, which I don't have as much to say about it. It's kind of a weird little film.
Is that why you don't have the little poster up?
I don't have the little poster. I couldn't find a decent one for it either. So this film is called Kings, and it's a drama of sorts about kind of the events around the Rodney King trial, and then the eventual aftermath when the riots happened.
Oh, I didn't even know they were making that movie. The only ads I've been hearing that reminded me of anything remotely like that was there an MLK drama or a Tupac or something like that?
There was a Tupac drama. There's been
like he got shot by cops or something. No, gang people.
There's
something like where the cops were mucking up the case.
Yeah, there was a Tupac film last year
or something like that.
Yeah, there was a Tupac film last year, and then there was the MLK film Selma a few years back.
Oh no, it was a different MLK film I thought they were making, but maybe I'm just like maybe I just swirling together part of a video where they put it in. I don't know.
Well,
I only catch trailers now if I'm seeking them out or if I'm skipping through an ad on a YouTube video. So that's what it feels like anyway.
Well, this is a fairly small film, and the interesting thing about it is that, you know, this is a film about a point in American history. And here's the odd thing, though. It's written and directed by, let's see if I can pronounce her name right here, Deniz Gamze Ergüven. It's a Turkish French. It's a Turkish French director directing this this film about American history, and a lot like earlier this year I reviewed 12 Strong, which is about, you know, an American operation directed by a Danish director. And
so is this like the Eurasian perspective of Rodney King or something like that?
Well, it's weird because like you can feel the sort of like distance from the material where you feel like they don't quite understand it on like a personal level. Because like what's weird about this setting is that it focuses mostly on two characters. you have Halle Berry playing this this mother who kind of has a lot of kids and also takes in kids off the street, and she tries to maintain her household, and she does a fairly decent job at it. You know, she's trying to keep them all together. She can't keep an eye on them at all times, but she's doing her best, and it's really tough, you know, with all these tensions going around. Next door to her is Daniel Craig, playing this this kind of writer who kind of like, you know, like, oh, I hate your kids, but they're all right. I have to take care of them. Oh, I hate you too, but you're okay. I have to be around you.
Isn't he
Bond?
Bond?
Yeah.
So they got James Bond.
You got James Bond. You got Halle Berry.
Halle Berry.
Yeah.
Who I keep thinking of her as a Bond girl, and you know, Cloud Atlas and stuff. Like,
they were.
This just seems you're setting it up in my mind to be very weird.
There were one Bond film apart, because she was in like Die Another Day, and then the next Bond film was Craig. I don't know. It's weird there. Okay, so
it seems like an odd choice, but maybe it plays well on the screen.
Well, here's the thing. It kind of does, because they're
Craig.
Because they're supposed to, well, he plays.
I just feel like Halle Berry's really young, but probably the last movie I watched her in was kind of a while ago. So
Halle Berry, she's getting a little up there, you know.
I don't know.
She's mom worthy.
Make me feel old now.
But they have kind of an interesting chemistry going on.
Okay.
The problem is they've got to stage this kind of you know, this kind of like tension-filled historical events around their kind of coupling, and it does not blend well at all. Because when we focus on, like, you know, the violence going on in the street and, you know, the interactions with cops, like it's very gritty, it's very handheld, it's very dark, it's very violent. But then we cut back to Halle Berry and Daniel Craig, and they're kind of yucking it up in between all this, and it's going on in between it.
So they're not taking the subject matter seriously. Is that what it is?
Well, when Halle Berry and Daniel Craig are not kind of, you know, trying to crack jokes around each other on screen, when they're apart, the film is actually kind of fine by making it focus on this very, you know, intense part of history. But when they come together, it turns into shtick. And like really odd shtick where you're like, what is this film trying to be? Because, like, okay, like, here, take this example as a scene. There's a scene where she starts protesting the cops, and the cops arrest her. They put her in handcuffs, they put her in the car, but because there's a dispute going on, they need the car, they end up just dumping her on the street in handcuffs.
In handcuffs?
In handcuffs, yeah.
Is this something that really happened?
I don't know. I can
never be sure in those kind of movies.
I'm assuming because they try to establish them as kind of like lax cops, but they leave her on the street with the handcuffs, which seems like, you know, such an odd and terrifying situation.
Yeah.
But Daniel Craig pulls up, and he's kind of like, it's like, oh, what happened to you? It's like, wait, what? And then
Why is he there?
Well, he's conveniently there, so he can get the car. He can bring it back to her place.
But then she'll still be in handcuffs.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He gets out like the little chisel and everything to like get him off. And you think like that would be kind of like a tension-filled moment, because he's trying to do this around like her kids who are like who are hungry and worried about her, and he's still cracking jokes. He's still like oh, I got him off. Oh, let's have a beer.
So she just leave her kids there alone while this happened?
Are
they older kids at least?
There are some older kids. Yeah, there are some teenagers.
Oh, okay. Well, at least there's that then.
Yeah.
This sounds like a bizarre movie the way
you're describing it. It is so bizarre. And I'm trying to again, like it's.
What does this have to do with Rodney King?
Well, the thing is, because they eventually they cut her on to Lamar Johnson, who plays one of the kids of Halle Berry, and his arc. If the film focused entirely on his arc, it would be great, because he kind of goes out on the street, he kind of participates in some gang stuff and realizes that, you know, oh, this is terrible. Like, there's a moment where he's kind of trying to drive through L.A. and it's on fire and there's smoke everywhere and it's like going through hell.
The L.A. riots?
Yeah. And that is actually legitimate good filmmaking. But then we cut back to Halle Berry and Daniel Craig, you know, cracking jokes and having beers while they're trying to get handcuffs off. And even worse, there's another scene where they get in handcuffs again in a compromising situation where they're tied to each other. It's like, what?
It's like they just wanted to make some weird romance between Daniel Craig and Halle Berry. They're like, oh no, Daniel Craig should have been Bond when Halle was in it. I'm going to make this happen.
Maybe that's Denise's weird wish is trying to make the James Bond film she couldn't ever make. But saying like, oh, but you're making a film about the LA riots. Like, yeah, it'll be about LA riots, and then Daniel Craig and Halle Berry will have
Or maybe the studio heads were like, and then there must be a romance. But it's about the LA riots and Rodney King. There must be a romance.
And it's so weird because they keep blending back and forth because they cut back to like them watching news footage of the trial in between them having like decent family time, which kind of seems like a different film. It's like, oh, like, you know, back to the LA riots. Oh, back to fun. Back to the LA riots. Back to, it's like,
I gotta say,
what?
It seems like good storytelling is very few and far between these days.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, I don't want to be that kind of accusatory, but, you know, again, going back to like with like 12 Strong, it feels like, you know, a film about an American story. Mm-hmm. Not told by someone who kind of gets the American perspective. It's just like, oh yeah, Americans, they like gritty intensity, but they also like love story. So we put love story in there. I don't know how well this film is kind of in limited release.
It's not like they couldn't have found a director in California for this movie. You know, yeah. Considering it was in California, and oh, hey, that's where Hollywood is, right?
Yeah.
I know it's not the same city, but, you know.
Well,
look pretty close. No? Wait. Hollywood.
Yeah, it's around there.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is, you know, because like he went to like a whole bunch of like international festivals, and I think it didn't do well there. I guess they're hoping on, you know, Halle Berry and Daniel Craig to push it forward. But
I don't know. Does Halle Berry still bring in lots of people after Catwoman and that? Not as 43, was it?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of people got drug under the bus.
Yeah,
in movie 43.
I know about that.
Chris Pratt was in movie 43.
But what is the last good movie she's been in? Granted, I haven't, like I said, the last movie I can remember her being in, it was quite a while ago. So
the last one I actually really dug her in was I think it was called The Call, where it was kind of like a weird, goofy thriller, but I think she worked well enough in it. I really dug her in that.
The last thriller I saw her in was Gothica.
With Gothica, and that was like what? Way too long ago.
A long time ago.
Oh man.
Well, that's why I think of her as being younger, because I haven't seen her in many movies lately.
It's too bad because she still kind of got it here. I mean,
I'm sure she's a decent actress. She's just gotten very good roles. So
no, she does really well in this role of playing this kind of very concerned.
I liked her in Cloud Atlas. I don't know. Yeah. She played a lot of people in that.
She did. She's really good. She's got range here. I mean, well, she proved it in Cloud Atlas, and she works really well as the mom here. Mm-hmm. Like she feels like a mother that's kind of really struggling to be both loving but also like, you know, maintain the house while still making, you know, errors along the way. She's great. Daniel Craig is great because he's usually pretty good in these type roles, especially this one where, you know, even though it doesn't fit, you kind of dig him as kind of, you know, this kind of like cackling writer next door. You know, if it were a different film, if it were, you know, a romantic comedy that didn't have to focus on the LA riots, maybe it could work. If they didn't have to focus on them and just focus on the teenager and just make it about the LA riots, could have been a good film. Like, I would love to see someone do a fan edit of just like chopping up those bits, and you could actually have a really good film out of these two ones.
You hear that, internet? Get on it.
Get on it. Dice up kings. But yeah, like that's the main problem. That's why, you know, I don't think this film's gonna go far.
What are these characters' relation to Rodney King? They're just there.
They're just kind of there. You know, they're right outside. You know, they listen to the trial. You know, the riots are just kind of right outside their door. So yeah, they're just kind of like stuck in the middle of it.
They couldn't tell a compelling story about someone who was actually related to King, or leading up to what happened with Rodney King and.
Well, I understand, like, it's kind of a better dynamic to focus on people around the event as opposed, because if you focus directly on Rodney King, you got to focus on, like, a lot of little details here.
You probably need to make things more historically accurate, which, you know, it's possible that none of these people represented in the movie actually ever existed. So.
And you might have to rework like the narrative and stuff like that. So it's better, I think, to focus on kind of like an outside perspective, to get an idea for kind of like the atmosphere. That part works if the film wanted to focus on that part. If it wanted to focus on its strengths, but it can't decide which film it wants to be, and just ends up being a complete mess in the end, which sucks because it could have worked as either, but it can't. So there you go. So that's Kings, a very very bizarre mess of I guess drama, even though it was kind of going for a romantic comedy angle there.
That just sounds so weird.
It is weird.
Sounds really weird.
It is so weird. But getting back to A Quiet Place.
Wait, why? I thought we moved past A Quiet Place.
Well, we did, but I wanted to kind of move into the theme of the stuff behind me there.
Oh, I see.
Because A Quiet Place has a really good horror premise.
Yeah, you tell we don't talk about this before we do the videos.
No, I just kind of like grab stuff on the fly. It's like, oh, what are we talking about tonight? I'll grab some stuff here.
It's like no planning for this. Rarely any planning before I do my streams either. So
yeah, you do it on the fly. But one of our favorites is Let the Right One In.
I read most of that, or did I finish reading the book? I can't remember. I read all or most of it.
Yeah, I think you read through all of it.
I think so. It was a long time ago, I think.
Yeah.
Quite a while ago, at least.
But
not a long time.
Everyone was talking about this film back then, and it's amazing just to watch like the shots here, especially because everyone who's seen the film remembers like that climactic scene in the pool where it's just holding on that one shot.
The American adaptation was okay, but if you want to watch, you gotta watch the Let the Right One In and not Let Me In.
Let Me In, yeah.
Yeah, Let the Right One In was way better.
Yeah, as far as adaptations go, Let Me In is fairly faithful.
Yeah, it's all right.
Like it's kind of like the same setting, the same atmosphere, the same type of characters.
It's just I don't know, maybe that's just one of those things where it didn't need to be made. It already existed.
Well, it's kind of like watching, when they do like different adaptations of like the IT Crowd or The Office. Like
that's cringy.
It's cringy, but it's mostly because like they're adhering to the same script, to the same type of stuff, and
they had the same actor for the American pilot of the IT Crowd.
Yeah.
And he just delivered his lines flatter than he did in the original show because you could tell he didn't want to be there. Yeah.
So I mean, if you have to, like let the Right One In it was released by Magnet. It was fairly limited release. So if Let Me In were on like cable or something like that, I'd watch it.
We saw it in theaters.
Yeah, because it's still pretty good. It maintains most of the spirit of the original film in the book, but honestly, the original is still good because it's faithful adaptation. But if you got to choose between the two, rather have the original Danish version. So.
Yeah, definitely.
But I like the idea of kind of this kind of like weird child romance of vampires that works.
Childhood romance. Can she really be considered a child? She's a vampire.
That's true. Yeah, that's the catch there. It's like
I mean,
really
I know
a child,
the pedophile that's with her thinks about it that way, but
yeah,
not really a child.
Kind of get a. It's like, oh no, she's not a child. She's been around for years. It sucks people's blood. Another interesting concept. 3 Extremes. This is kind of like a smorgasbord of Asian horror. You have little horror films from Japan, from China, and from Korea.
True too. They did the little girl vampire better in Let the Right One In than in Interview with the Vampire.
That's true.
And they're
yeah.
completely different types of characters too.
Oh yeah.
Completely different types of characters.
Yeah. I didn't really dig Interview with a Vampire that much.
I liked it. But it's a different type of story. It's a different type of vampire.
Yeah. Like, parts of it I remember vividly.
And I read one of the books from that series, too. No, 2 of the books from that series. Man, they make me feel dirty when I read them. It's so sexy.
But this is a great little collection of little short horror films. They're about like 30-40 minutes each. Mm-hmm. There's some really good ones here, but mainly because the Japanese one is by Takashi Miike. Mm-hmm. And anyone who's seen Takashi Miike's films, like, you know, he's done stuff like Audition and Gozu, very creepy stuff. And he kind of outdoes himself here, especially because there's very creepy stories here about, you know, about someone's family being threatened. There's one about an abortionist.
Oh yeah, dumplings.
Yeah, the dumpling one. I think it's actually called Dumplings.
It's called Dumplings.
Yeah, because I think that there's actually a longer version of Dumplings.
Oh,
that
really?
They made. Yeah, because I think they chopped it down for this film, and then I think there's like kind of like an extended cut they made into a longer film.
Yeah, I keep thinking when I have that one mentally connected to, what is it? A Tale of Two Sisters, or is that the remake name of it?
No, yeah, it's called Tale of Two Sisters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, you know, again, the original was better, and they changed a lot of things in the remake for that one, though.
Yeah.
Though I do like Emily Browning, so.
Go figure. But yeah, it's mostly because McKay's short down here is about two sisters.
Yeah, that's probably has something to do with it.
Who have a really creepy connection to a circus that has probably one of the most...
It was an odd one, yeah.
It has a very bizarre twist.
Yeah, it does. It totally does.
And it would have freaked me out as much if it weren't for the fact that I knew that McKay always does insane twists in his films. Not the kind of... Not the kind of, like, you know, M. Night Shyamalan twist where it's kind of like, oh, that's a really stupid explanation. It's kind of like left field, oh, I bet you didn't know it was this type of genre type crazy ending.
Yeah.
Because anyone who's seen, like, the stuff on, like, Dead Alive and, like, 13 Assassins knows he goes nuts with getting to the end there. Because I think he gets so into a mood with, like, his writing and directing that by the time he gets to the end, he can't really figure out the best ending and just goes for... the craziest of endings, because anyone who's seen...
It's like having a dream. It goes in really weird, nonsensical places, and you're just like, wake up and like, huh, that was odd.
Yeah. Audition is probably the best example of that, because for like 80% of the film, it's kind of like a slow building, slightly tension-filled drama, and then you get into the end, and there's like the woman cutting off limbs and taking out body parts. It's like,
that's
oh, where did that come
from? I'm never going to
from?
watch that movie. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. He goes for it, man. He goes for it. He's surprisingly pretty subtle in Three Extremes. I think...
But now we must talk about Trick or Treat.
Since we're talking about horror anthologies, how can we not?
Which is a very wonderful horror anthology. And I believe when this movie came out, it was kind of hard to get the DVD, wasn't it? We had to go back a couple of times, didn't we?
It was an instant cult hit because it had been at some festivals around like 2008 or 2008, 2007.
Oh, that's so long ago.
And it was going to have a theatrical release, but Warner Brothers decided, no, we're not going to do that. And they ended up releasing it on home video. And so everyone who had seen it was saying, like, dude, you have to see this film. And so everyone went out and bought this film immediately once it hit home video. Because it was coming out around Halloween time. Everyone wanted a scary film. So, hey, Trick or Treat. And it's R-rated horror anthology. Why not? So, yeah, I had to go back to the store a few times to get it. Because everyone had to have this film, and it's that good.
Like they all tied together rather nicely, too. Because it's an anthology, but the characters are connected. So, that's good. Because Three Extremes is an anthology, but they are not connected.
Yeah, it's kind of just, you know, there's no connecting device.
Yeah.
Like Trick or Treat, there's enough. There's not really a central connecting device, but there's enough between.
Enough.
Yeah.
The characters run together. And the fellow on the front there.
Oh, Sackboy.
He connects them as well. So.
Have you seen the cartoon?
No, but now I'm curious.
Well, because Sackboy actually started off as a animated short.
You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I might have, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, back on MTV.
Probably closer to when that came out that we would have watched it. So.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the. I think it was late 90s when that came out. It was creepy, and then when you actually see what's under there, it's like, ooh, that's creepy.
Don't give it away.
I'm not giving away. Just saying it's creepy.
Yeah,
it's creepy.
It's meant to be. It's a horror movie,
yeah.
Of course. Now, this is a horror movie, but it's a comedic horror movie.
It's a very clever premise.
Yeah.
For anyone who adores horror tropes and wants to see them both turned on their head, but also given, you know, kind of a nice warm blanket, you know, taking in from the cold.
It's not a corny comedy.
No, it's a satire.
It's a well done comedy.
Yeah.
Or it has comedic elements, would be more appropriate to say.
Oh, it's entirely a comedy.
Yeah. But I mean, it's legitimately scary in some parts too, I'd say.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's mainly because, you know, they play up because if you're used
they play up the tropes, yeah.
Right, because if you're used to like this stuff, you know, it's not as scary. I mean, you dig the elements, but they're creative enough where even if they're not scary, kind of like, oh, well, you know, it's pretty clever. It's kind of a fun kill. So.
It's like or you know, they run into the old man at the gas station and delivers the cryptic warning, and then they're, you know, hovering over certain items in the cellar or something, and it feels very Evil Dead kind of.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Straight out of Evil Dead, man.
Especially when they start reading the journal. That really made me feel Evil Dead. Do you know what I mean?
There's a lot of loving tributes in there. And
yeah.
Definitely one of the films that you need on video because you're going to end up freeze framing it a bunch of times.
Wait. So. That part where she makes out with the trophy, that's probably kind of an Evil Dead thing too, because like the trophy reminded me a lot of Evil Dead. So. Yeah.
Well, playing on anticipation too, because you're familiar with Evil Dead when all the stuff comes alive.
Yeah, so you're waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it creates the anticipation there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely would recommend Cabin in the Woods. Also,
must.
I believe this movie has a very well-known actor these days in it. But did they not release this one right away?
No.
Until after this actor picked up in popularity due to being a certain Avenger?
Yes.
So, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mr. Hammer Thrower, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, once he became popular, all these films that he'd been in that have been shelved are just like, oh, let's pull him down, let's throw him out there.
Our time has come.
Your time has come, man. So now all of a sudden they're like, how are you in all these films? It's like, I shot those like years ago. What are these?
Is that what happened with what's his nuts? The British guy. He did a voiceover on Series of Unfortunate Events, and he was in like 3 or 4 other movies that same year.
Is it
Jude Law.
Jude Law? Yeah.
Like I just felt like there was 1 year or 2 where Jude Law was in everything, and I'm like, how?
That was the jokes.
Did that happen with him too?
Yeah, I some of that stuff happened. Because, like, again, a lot of these films get pushed back for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Either because they don't think it'll sell, or they don't have a decent place to put it. And that's why you'll see, like, a lot of films end up in weird spots or different locations where you...
Yeah. So they're like, oh, Jude Law's hot. Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Hemsworth, he's hot. Bam, bam, bam.
Let's release that Red Dawn remake. Wasn't it terrible? Doesn't matter. Throw it out there. It's gonna... Now we're getting to some more... smaller films here.
I don't think I'm familiar with this one. Although it's giving me a lot of trauma film vibe. You know, like, was it Night of the Chicken Dead or something like that?
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist, yeah. It's giving me some Poltergeist vibes here.
Well, it is a comedy, as if it wasn't obvious. But it's a New Zealand comedy.
Oh, yeah. New Zealand's been pretty on fire lately.
Oh, yeah.
With movies.
Yeah, anytime I see a film that's come out from New Zealand, I get all excited, especially a genre film, because they do genre films like no one's business.
Deathgasm was fantastic, and that other one that kind of like grossed me out in parts, so I didn't watch the whole thing, but it seemed pretty good. Turbo Boy?
Turbo Kid.
Turbo Kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And the Hunt for Wilder People.
Yes, that was New Zealand too, and I loved that one. That one was fantastic.
Well, this one's a lot of fun too because it has it plays up on the Maori people from there because they focus on this one Maori family who they seem kind of normal. So like a bunch of criminals decide, oh, we're gonna hide out with them and hold them hostage. Except they kind of reveal while the daughters come home on college that, well, we're cannibals. I don't know if you knew this, but
the daughters didn't know.
The daughter didn't know. She's kind of like, oh, you guys do. It's like, well, yeah, we've been kind of doing it for a while. You didn't notice the stuff.
She had been a cannibal and not have realized it or something.
Well, I think because they keep it secret, obviously, because cannibal is not really acceptable
for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons, so
that's disgusting.
But hey, when there are criminals in the house trying to kill them, they think, hey, free lunch, free dinner. So,
I guess.
So it gets very crazy.
Self-defense, come on.
It gets very crazy. It gets very, very brutal. Very hilarious. But again, it does play up a lot of great anticipation about, okay, when are they gonna, go on the offensive? Mm-hmm. When are they gonna attack? When are they gonna start eating people? It builds that up pretty well.
Yeah, it could be good.
So yeah, it's a pretty undiscovered film. So if you haven't seen it, it was released kind of by the Tribeca people. So yeah, check that one out.
Yeah, these New Zealand movies just kind of pop out, and then you're like, oh, wow. I don't know. I had to share Deathgasm with a few people.
Oh,
some people got it, some people didn't, but
everyone needs to see Deathgasm.
The people who needed to get it got it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Now just a little close New Zealand there. We got an Australian one now. This was kind of an interesting concept. 100 Bloody Acres. It's about two fertilizer salesmen who are struggling with their business, and then they find, human bodies work a lot better. So
I was thinking maybe they were going for bombs when he said fertilizer salesman, but no.
Nope. They're just average fertilizer salesmen, and then they decide, let's get some bodies.
Actually, that would not work better because there's some diseases you can catch that way.
Yeah, but that's kind of playing up on the whole. Just like, it would make the best fertilizer, but for their purposes, it's it's trying to push ahead this plot that they have to kill people. But it's kind of relatable because they're two brothers who run the business. You got the one meek brother who's kind of like, I don't really like killing people. I don't think we should do this.
Well, because it's wrong.
Yeah, and the kind of gruff giant is just like, look, we need the money, so just kill him, get him over with.
I know that Australia is kind of sparsely populated too, isn't it? And it's just kind of only living on the coast, pretty much. And
yeah, they're a little bit out in the country.
Maybe there's just not that much to sell out in Australia, but you think you'd be able to find something other than killing people to make fertilizer?
Yeah, it's a very, very odd premise, but it works well enough because you dig the characters. Mm-hmm. The kind of giant guy here is played by his name is Angus Sampson. You've probably seen him in stuff like the Insidious films. He's kind of like the gruff Aussie giant that you've seen in stuff. He's kind of got the big beard. It's just like, hey, what you gonna do there?
Random thought. You know what Australian production I'd like to watch?
What's that?
Farscape.
Oh, who doesn't love Farscape, man?
Although, I think I have been waiting for another season of Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries for a while, and I just feel like it's not going to come because she was in the Babadook, and then she probably went and did other stuff. So
possibly. I know that show has its big fan too, so it might come back.
Yeah. Well, and they might just have made it, but not have brought it over here, and now you probably have to pay for a separate streaming service because it's an Acorn production.
Yeah, it'll probably be by Acorn. So. Damn you, Acorn.
Woman shakes fist at sky.
Woman shakes fist.
Wait, let's do the pose like in the Simpsons reference here. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Cloud.
You got your cloud. And then, of course, the film that scares. Sinister.
Yeah, it's scary. I didn't see the sequel. Because I was scared. So
yeah, and
I had nightmares with that face involved.
The Bagul.
I'd close my eyes and be scared. I am a chicken. I am a coward. I fully admit this, and that is why some of those horror movies and I just don't get along because I need to sleep. Yep. And I already have trouble sleeping. So.
Yep, and I noticed that's a commonality. Is that it's kind of hard to talk about horror films because I hear a lot of people say like, "Oh, too spooky for me." Nope. I ain't watching that. Nothing against your film, but I don't like the spooky stuff.
Like in Ready Player One. I don't like horror movies.
Is it scary?
Is it scary? I don't like horror.
I watched most of the film through my hands. But yeah.
You didn't though. You're not a coward.
No. I dug Sinister.
Your parents got you into that at a young age.
Yeah. Yeah, we watched horror movies young, so got used to them. I love the...
Whereas my dad didn't let me watch PG-13 movies even until I was like 14. He tried to do 14, but I'm like, no, Dad, I'm 13.
No, Dad. Come on, Papa. Yeah, I really love the concept of, having a demon in these little, like, home movies that they find in, like, the attic. It's kind of a bizarre premise. I even kind of dug... A lot of people were hard on the sequel.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
I kind of dug the sequel because it was more from the kids' perspective. Of, the kids that get entrapped with, Bughuul to work for him, so...
Yeah, I'm like, Bughuul, this shit isn't really working for us. No, I'm joking. Like I said, I didn't see it. So, did he write the sequel as well?
He did. Yes, the screenwriter. He did write the screenwriter of the first one. Did write the second one.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same director though on the sequel though.
Can change things too.
Yeah, and director can change quite a bit in there. I do like the fact though that they do have a running character here of detective. I think he's called Detective So and So in the credits. Because I don't think he's ever given like an official name. They just call him Detective So and So.
I have a joke for when we go to conversions, then maybe.
Yeah.
Well, hello, Mr. So and
So. You probably dig it. He actually mentioned him in his latest book too.
All right then.
Yeah. And while I was thinking about that, I was on a panel with him at a convention, and we were talking about little undiscovered horror films from the year, and I mentioned one that he actually considered almost like the spiritual sister to Sinister.
Oh yeah.
And it's this little film called Resolution. This is it's a weird take, much like Sinister. It's an odd take on the found footage format.
But he didn't write that one, right?
No, he didn't write it, but he was very familiar with the people who were working on it.
Well, I mean, he was a movie critic too, so I mean...
Yeah.
You guys know your movies.
Yeah, but I think this was in production around the same time as Sinister. So
yeah.
And it's kind of weird. It's about a friend who takes his kind of like drug obsessed friend into the woods and kind of saddles him.
Puts the cabin in the woods to shame. Aw. You don't need to put someone else down to raise yourself up.
Oh, Village Voice. I guess they didn't like the tropes. I guess they didn't like the satire tropes. Because it's kind of about a cabin in the woods, where this dude brings his drug addicted friend to try to get him off the stuff, and so they end up just...
That explains the handcuffs.
Yeah, they kind of keep him in there. He keeps him off everything. They keep him like away from everybody.
Yeah.
And they try to film it too.
Into a werewolf?
Well, no, because there's something weird going on. There's something attacking outside, but they don't know what it is. And to the best of my knowledge, from what I remember, they do not show it.
Oh, so kind of a Blair Witch sort of thing then.
Kinda. Yeah, it's kind of like a mix between like the Blair Witch and kind of like remember when like the camera was attacking Ash in Evil Dead 2?
Yeah. It's
kind of like that, where you don't see what the monster is, but you know there's something out there lurking. And well, there's also other dangers too, because they're apparently on a Native American land, where this kind of like young guy who really doesn't like them kind of wants to kick them off there or threaten them to get off. So there's a lot of tension going around there. There's some tension going on with the cops.
You think there might be a better way to get your friend off drugs?
But the way that it ties in with found footage is because he's recording his friend's recovery. And the video starts distorting at some points. Like at some points they start seeing, stuff that didn't happen during the night, or the live footage is showing them the future, what's going to happen. Like they watch the footage and they see like, oh, this is what's happening now. But on the television they see like, oh, those Native American guys come in with guns and shoot them up. So they're like, maybe we should leave.
That's one heck of a YouTube video.
Yeah. Maybe we should leave. And then sure enough, they show up with guns. They're out there.
Even though they didn't leave?
No, they left, and then they're like, well, why did we leave? Oh yeah, because they were gonna come in with guns.
and they ended up doing that, but they weren't there.
But they weren't there, yeah. So like, thanks, haunted tape.
Well, it's better than the Rings haunted tape, eh?
Yeah, well, it's kind of weird because
it's a helpful haunted tape.
You're trying to figure out what the paranormal entity is trying to do here too.
Save their lives, damn it!
Is it trying to save their lives? Is it trying to kill them or save them up? What's it trying to do? I love that mystery that builds throughout it.
All right.
So yeah.
And now, the Princess Kaguya.
Oh yes.
I don't think I've seen it. Have I?
Well,
I can't keep things straight. So
here's the thing.
There's a lot going on in this head.
The reason I grabbed
Kaguya.
The reason I grabbed the Tale of Princess Kaguya is because I just heard this over.
Calls? No, we're not set up for that.
We're not taking calls. We'll take questions if you want to chat.
Yeah.
So. We'll definitely take questions. But the reason I grabbed this is because I just heard about 2 hours ago that director Isao Takahata has died.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Takahata is kind of like he's like Hayao Miyazaki's main man. You know, he's been there. He's like the co-founder of Ghibli. He's directed a ton of amazing films. He's done stuff like Grave of the Fireflies. He's worked with Miyazaki on most of his Ghibli productions. And he directed The Tale of Princess Kaguya, which is by far his masterpiece.
Okay.
It's a beautiful film to watch, and it sucks that he bit the dust because he's just as good as Miyazaki. I mean, when Miyazaki announced that he was retiring after kind of like The Wind Rises, everyone's kind of down because like Goro Miyazaki, his son, was gonna be taken over, and he's not as good. But then Isao came in. It's like, look, this is how you do a good anime, man.
A Yamaku. Is that how you spell Yamaka or something?
Yarmo giveaway? It's like an entry. Oh yeah.
We have a giveaway.
We do have a giveaway.
I don't know what that word is. I have to Google it.
Well, we are giving a giveaway. If you can't tell, we are giving away I'm doing a new thing called the Movie of the Month, where every month we're going to give away a movie that I would recommend. It's not going to be like I said in the beginning. It's not going to be like Z-grade crap.
A Yamaku?
Yamaku?
I'm still gonna have to Google that.
We're giving away DVDs. So for this month, we're gonna be giving away a film that I totally recommend.
Yeah, that's the little caps that the Jewish people wear.
Yeah.
No, we're not giving away those.
No, that's why it's called the Movie of the Month giveaway. We're giving away a movie. So yeah, we're giving away DVDs, and the thing is, like I'm gonna give away like it's not that the DVD.
Yarmulkes? Why are you bringing up yarmulkes? He's trying to derail or something.
Trying to derail, I guess. But the thing is, like, yeah, we're gonna give away a different film every month. We're giving away good films we're gonna watch, films that I would watch, nothing that like crap I'm trying to get rid of.
Codex.
Okay.
I think lawyers know how to capitalize letters.
Okay. So, the weird thing is like Darkside Phil would do this thing where he would give away the covers of stuff like that. Say like, oh, here's the game box. I sold the game, but I'll give it away to you. Well, I'm actually gonna do the opposite.
The box.
He would give away the box, not the game, but the box. Well, I'm actually gonna do the opposite. I'm going to give away the disc, but not the box.
And, you don't have the box?
Well, here's the explanation. These ones I actually got from a editor back in the day who he would take out...
John Wick.
Well, we get like kind of the Blu-ray combo packs where, they'd have like the Blu-ray and the DVD. And he would give out the DVD and it's like, oh, here, review this. And I'll take the Blu-ray. I'll take it home for myself,
Oh.
And,
well...
And so I ended up getting the DVD on that. But it's a great DVD. I love John Wick. And the only reason that I'm giving this one away is because I am waiting for the inevitable trilogy set that's going to come out. So this is definitely a must-watch film, especially if you want to get the joke about Keanu Reeves and why you don't mess with his dog. So this is the film to figure that out with. And just in case this doesn't seem like enough. Because I want to clarify, I will have DVDs with packaging. I'm not going to be like my editor and steal the packaging. I just wanted to give away a really good film this month. So I'm going to give away this. But just in case it isn't enough, I decided I'll also give away some other films. And again, these are films that I love. These are films that I would totally recommend. I'm also going to give away Kill the Messenger. which it stars Jeremy Renner in a kind of a film about journalism, dangerous journalism about the drug organizations.
I don't think I'm familiar with that one.
Smaller film. These are kind of undiscovered films. The Good Lie with Reese Witherspoon trying to bring in some African refugees and teach them about American culture. Fairly.
I haven't heard of that one either.
Like I said, a little smaller film, but it's a very good drama. I love the characters that they build up here, and especially because the African characters they have here actually did survive this kind of real epidemic that happened in their country where they had to flee to America. So you have that going for it. And then we got The Judge, which has Robert Duvall and why am I blanking on his name? Robert Downey Jr. And kind of like a great family drama dynamic of like coming home and trying to deal with your dad who doesn't quite love you. So
I do think I remember you telling me about that movie.
You do remember The Judge?
I remember you telling me about it. I didn't watch it.
Okay. It's very long. It's about like 2.5 hours, but it is worth it just because Duvall and Downey Jr. are really good in this film. So there you go. If you enter the contest below in the Twitch stream there, I'll post the link there. You're gonna get 4 really good films. 4 films that I would totally recommend. We got a follower. Thank you. Who's that?
I couldn't read it.
Oh, that's because I made it tiny.
Is it Super Dude TV?
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Super Dude TV, for the follow. And activating our crazy alerts.
I'm still not used to those.
You'll get used to them. How old are we? We're very old.
I wasn't gonna bother answering. I think you're just trolling. So.
Yeah, but I wanted to talk about. We actually didn't get a chance to talk about because the stream cut out. We were about some of the films that we've seen together. Jumanji.
Oh, Jumanji 2? That's right. Because
Welcome to the Jungle.
The stream cut out for some reason last week. I can't remember why.
Yeah, this one should work.
Okay.
This one should work there. Oh, we got another follower. Yeah, thanks.
You're an RX.
So yeah, Jumanji. Welcome to the Jungle. I was actually talking with
Oh, thanks. I thought you were just trying to troll, especially when you started talking about Keck and stuff, which I know is an internet joke. So.
Yeah. But I was talking about it with one of the other critics that we know that we kind of agreed that it was kind of like director was handed a very terrible treatment for Jumanji and said, make it work. And this is probably the best you're ever going to get with this concept of turning Jumanji into a video game. And it just I'm surprised how much I really love the film thinking back on it more.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I mostly just watched it because I didn't want the rental to go to waste.
Yeah.
This kid only watched half of it, and then she went somewhere. So.
No, forget her. I wanted to watch it.
So I'll just watch it. I was really surprised. I really liked it, and I really liked the first one, although I was young when I watched it, and it scared me a lot.
Yeah, but
this one I really enjoyed, and I thought it was pretty decent. I mean, it was good. I generally like The Rock, although I don't know about some of the roles he picks, but or that pick him, I guess. And Jack Black can be hit or miss, but it was good.
Yeah, I mean, well, Jack.
The jokes worked,
Yeah, well, Dwayne Johnson he bleeds charisma, so if he can't make your film likable, no one can. So
yeah.
So if
he does have a lot of charisma. I liked the joke with the smoldering thing was kind of funny too.
Yeah, they know how to use him well in that film. They know how to play up to his traits. and he's a very likable guy too, Just to see him on screen like that, he's got great presence. So
I remember when he was a wrestler too. So that's always he'll always be The Rock.
Yeah.
Can you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Well, we'll have to see how he does in the rest of the year because he's going to be in Rampage, and then he's going to be in that other weird one, Skyscraper.
I didn't see anything about that, but I've seen the trailer for Rampage
twice.
So.
There was a Super Bowl ad where they have him jumping towards a building, And when I first saw the trailer, I thought it was Rampage because it looks like this. I don't know. Maybe it's just my mind playing tricks on me, but it looks like he's wearing the same shirt he was in Jumanji. Because it is like look at the trailer for Jumanji. It looks like he's kind of wearing the same. He just came right out of the game.
Yeah.
I just hope he doesn't just play the same role. I know he can do more stuff, you know.
I feel like he does best when, I don't know, when they use his full range. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When he's not just some dummy, but he's not just
yeah.
You know, just all action. You know, when he's got stuff going for him, like he did in Jumanji 2, although, you know, he was just really a voice in Moana, but I really loved Moana, and he did great in that too. I mean,
well, that's a huge recovery after
considering he's singing in it, and I don't usually hear him singing. He was okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that was a huge recovery after the other voice he did in Planet 51, which is.
Did I see Planet 51? I can't remember.
No, barely anyone. Even people who have seen it don't want to remember it because it's that bad.
We've seen a lot of movies, and some of them have been really forgettable. There's been a lot of times where I had forgotten if I had seen that Jim Carrey Scrooge version.
Oh, the Christmas Carol one with Zemeckis.
I thought that was really forgettable. I kept forgetting about seeing that one.
Yeah, a lot of those like ImageWorks ones from Zemeckis are like they're competent enough to be entertaining at the time, but you forget them like pretty quick. Yeah, it
was all right, but I don't know. There was nothing memorable.
Yeah.
So.
But I finally got around to watching. We both got around to watching Your Name.
Oh yeah, and it was really good.
Yeah,
it was really good.
I mean,
it made me cry.
I had high hopes because everyone was telling me, you know, like, oh, you've got to see Your Name, and they're pushing it a lot harder than they do most anime films. Because most anime films, you know, they come with kind of the same recommendation, like, no man, Your Name. It's really, really smart and really evocative filmmaking. It was,
so. And I don't usually like heavy romantic type things. I mean, it wasn't that heavy-handed with the romance.
Yeah.
I don't know. It made me cry. It was a good movie.
It's
like a compelling piece. There was tension, you know.
Yeah.
So
it's like a Groundhog Day romance, you know.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, it's one of those things you just kind of gotta see to understand it. But it really plays up the concept of two souls who don't know too much about each other connecting with each other in a very odd, very kind of science fiction explanation.
Yeah.
But very...
Yeah. Well, or a supernatural explanation, I guess.
Yeah. I will say, though, I love this. Like, this film actually, it came out a year ago here in theaters. And then finally got around to being on digital services a while ago. I really love this film, but I think it's getting a lot of great press too, and like because everyone was raving about this film more because like junkets that I've seen rarely write about anime, they were writing about it. Yeah. So I'm very fearful because they already have the rights picked up.
Oh.
For an American film, and I know what they're gonna do, and they're gonna destroy this concept. So.
Well, I'm already gonna refuse to see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know you think in that area I'm a little close-minded, but I'm just tired of them messing everything up.
I don't blame you when it comes to teen romances. I've sat through so many dumb teen romances. Although I've yet to see Love, Simon. Everyone tells me Love, Simon is like, no, it's actually competent. So
I've seen bits and I've seen reviews of what they did with Death Note.
Oh yeah.
And that's the cringiest looking thing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Death Note
Why?
Yeah, massive misfire.
And then there's the whole controversy with Ghost in the Shell. So
yeah.
Are you gonna bring it over here? Well, if you don't hire all Asian cast, you're gonna catch trouble, you know, which you're not going to do because it's the American audience and we're majority, you know, the big actors that they have to pull people in.
Which is bizarre because they also cast...
Why bother bringing it over then?
Which is bizarre because they also cast Beat Takeshi in there. And Beat like Beat Takeshi's like probably one of the greatest living Japanese actors right now.
Yeah.
And they brought him in, and it's like no man, he's gonna speak Japanese for this, so we're all gonna do it, which is fine because like, you know, if you've seen the original Ghost in the Shell film, it kind of takes place in kind of an area that looks kind of like Hong Kong. And you have, you know, you have kind of like this kind of like mixing of different cultures and stuff like that. It's pretty weird. I do, you know, it depends on how you view it, but I did kind of like how they weaved around it by trying to set up Ghost in the Shell. They're, in terms of like with the characters, in terms of the world, they got it down. Like they're like, if you're a big Ghost in the Shell fan, you know little bits and details about the world, like they nail little aspects, like with the fact that Bateau loves basset hounds, or the fact that the people who work in forensics have to work with, you know, by basically pulling out their eyepieces and then putting like a different visor in there. So just little things like that I love that they pay attention to, and of course the whole robotic geishas were they were spot on. That's probably the best. It's the opening scene. It's probably the best scene in the film too.
Do you remember the weird robots from that other movie we watched?
Which one? Weird robots. Trying to think
the one with Mute, was it?
Oh, Mute with yes.
That's just what it made me think of when you said robotic geishas.
There's a scene with Geisha, and he's got a bunch of robots that do questionable things in his bed.
I mean, it was this dude dressed like a geisha in a kind of fetishy sort of way, I thought. I was like, what the heck is going on here?
That's what I love so much about how Duncan Jones set up Mute, is because he has all these different details about this world and just throws you into them. It's like, why is there a robot pole dancing? Look, it works. Just go with it, okay?
Who finds that sexy?
Someone does. Someone likes their sexy robots in a strip club.
Well, there is that whole, like... Didn't we watch a documentary, or did I just watch that about the robot sex dolls?
Oh, we watched that one, yeah.
That was bizarre, too.
Yeah.
To each their own.
Yeah, that's the weird future.
They're not hurting anybody, so.
I think those are at least the big films I think we watched together. Any other big ones I think we watched? Recently, yeah.
No, I don't have a whole lot of time to watch movies.
Yeah. Which is odd, because, yeah, like last week we both watched Ready Player One and Isle of Dogs.
Yeah, that's true, we did. Yeah. But I think, I don't know, I've been working a lot this week, and...
Yeah, it comes at territory.
I felt like this week has been really busy, and I've been really exhausted, and I started not feeling well again, so...
All right.
I think I'm starting to get better.
So... Man, Becky is sick.
Yeah, so that is what it is.
It is what it is. So, unfortunate... So yeah, to recap, A Quiet Place is probably my favorite horror film of the year right now. I know it's early, but still, we need a really good horror film. Just like Annihilation is probably going to end up being my favorite sci-fi film, A Quiet Place is probably going to be my favorite horror. So definitely check that out. Kings probably won't be, you know, hitting the cinema very soon, so that's easy to avoid. It's a very bizarre. I would only recommend seeing it if you just want to see the bizarreness of Halle Berry and Daniel Craig together on screen for the Bond film that never happened. So
maybe they should just cut that part out.
Yeah, again,
make it the Bond film that never
cut it up, make it a Bond film.
As I joked, since they were both in Bond.
You know what? It could actually, if you edit it correctly, it could be a Bond film.
There you go.
Because there's a scene where she's in handcuffs and he's got to like kind of smirk as he gets off the handcuffs.
See, there you go.
That's totally a James Bond film.
Maybe I'm right. Maybe what she really wanted to direct was a James Bond film, or maybe that's her way of making a fan fiction of Bond with Daniel Craig's Bond.
Yeah.
With the Jinx character from what was that? Die Another Day.
Yeah. So Denise, make a James Bond film.
That's the last James Bond film I've watched, is Die Another Day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, you're missing out on the Daniel Craig stuff, man.
I haven't watched any of the Daniel Craig movies.
Oh.
But you know what? I did see a version of Casino Royale. It was really bad, by the way. The Peter Sellers version.
The not very good one. Yeah.
It was really bad. I don't recommend that you watch it. It was incredibly boring.
Yes. Do watch the Daniel Craig version. That one's badass. That and Skyfall.
I saw Daniel Craig stunt double jump out of a plane with the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Stunt double?
Yeah.
Does that count for anything? That was James Bond.
Good, yeah. I love the fact, though, too, that whenever we talk about Daniel Craig, everyone will say, like, oh, Daniel Craig's awesome. You should see him in Casino Royale and Skyfall. He's amazing there. What about Quantum of Solace and Spectre? No, we don't talk about those.
What about Cowboys versus Aliens? I wanted to see that one.
No, we don't talk about the Jon Favreau one. No. Jon Favreau does good stuff. Don't talk about.
What else has he been in? Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig? He was in something recently. I forgot. He's been around in quite a few films. I think he's done some voices in some stuff. God, I'm blanking. Kings. He was in Kings. That's the most recent thing I remember him from. But yeah, that I think the next Bond film is. I think it's supposed to be done by Danny Boyle.
I think I'll die another day.
So, yeah, be easy to avoid that. Sad news about Isao Takahata died. Very sad to see him go. If you haven't seen The Tale of Princess Kaguya, go see it. It is his best film ever made. Either that or Grave of the Fireflies, although be ready to cry bullets.
Did I see that one?
Grave of the Fireflies?
No.
I don't think you have. You'd remember if you did, because you would be bawling.
Okay.
It will make grown men cry, that movie, man.
I cry during a lot of movies, but I'm a woman, so...
Oh, this is like the saddest film I own. Just to warn you. So if you really want to cry, watch Grave of the Fireflies. Everyone who's seen it will tell you that, you know?
Maybe that's another thing that's changed with me with age. I'm not so interested in crying while watching movies so much. I'll do it, but, I don't seek it out.
Yep. And finally, for our Movie of the Month giveaway, just to reiterate, we are giving away John Wick, the great Keanu Reeves film, in addition to these other little films of The Judge, The Good Lie, and Kill the Messenger. And we will have more films with actual packaging in the coming months. Good films, too. Not crap that I want to get rid of. Like, actually good films. I promise you, we're not going to have any of that crap. I would, trust me, I will not give you crap.
No, that's saved for White Elephant Christmas exchanges.
Yes. I'm not doing a white elephant here. I swear. Good films here, okay? So I will be back next week with my wife here, and we will be talking about, of course, the new action film based on the video game Rampage, where Dwayne Johnson will be running around with a giant gorilla.
I played the Wii version of that game once at a friend's house, and it's just destroying buildings. So I'm interested to hear how that actually happens.
I'm excited. I love these trailers. I cannot wait for it. It looks so much fun.
All I think every time is that the baby gorilla does not look like a gorilla. So
yeah. Well, they explain in the film, but we'll talk about that next week. In addition to
species, got it.
In addition to another little indie film, a comedy called Crystal, starring and I'm blanking on her name, Rosario Dawson. Yes, so we'll be looking.
It's been a while since I've seen her in anything.
Yeah, she's a little bit smaller film. So yeah, we'll be reviewing Rampage and Crystal next week. So be sure to enter the giveaway at the bottom there, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, and you can catch us on Wednesdays on my channel if you want to watch me draw, and we talk about movies there too. So,
So, good night, everybody.